You don't get disrespected because people are cruel. You get disrespected because your nervous system is broadcasting permission. That's the part nobody wants to admit. Not because you're weak, not because you lack confidence, but because somewhere along the way you learned that staying safe meant staying agreeable. So you soften your voice. You over-explain. You smile when something feels wrong. You shrink just enough to keep the peace. And people feel that instantly. Not consciously, instinctively. They sense that you will adjust before they have to. They sense that you'll carry the discomfort so they don't have to. They sense that you'd rather be accepted than respected. And once that signal is felt, the dynamic is sealed. Disrespect doesn't come from malice. It comes from comfort, from knowing you won't push back. That's why it keeps happening with different people, different places, different situations. Same pattern. You think the problem is them, but the pattern follows you. And here's the uncomfortable truth most people avoid. You don't get treated badly because you're too nice. You get treated badly because your boundaries are emotional, not embodied. Your body still behaves like approval is survival. And until that changes, no amount of confidence talk will save you. But the moment it does change, the room changes with you. Disrespect begins the moment your emotions become predictable. When someone disrespects you and you react immediately. Defending, explaining, justifying, you reveal something subtle but powerful. They touched a nerve. And humans are instinctively drawn to power dynamics. They feel it before they think it. When you react too quickly, your nervous system is saying, you have access to me, and access is influence. This comes from early emotional imprinting, moments when being heard required intensity, explanation, or emotional performance. You learned that to matter, you had to react, but emotional maturity is restraint. When someone disrespects you and you calmly name it, that was disrespectful, then stop. No explanation. No emotion, no defense. You fracture the pattern. Silence forces self-reflection onto them, and discomfort becomes their burden, not yours. That pause, that stillness, that's authority without aggression. People don't disrespect your time because they're cruel. They do it because you taught them your time was weightless. Always available, always replying, always adjusting. Your nervous system learned early that being needed was safer than being valued. So you stayed open constantly, hoping availability would earn security. But value is created by limitation. When you pause before responding, when you don't rush to say yes, when your life continues even when others want access, something shifts. You stop orbiting them. They begin orbiting you. This isn't manipulation, it's energetic truth. What has no boundary cannot be respected. Disrespect rarely arrives loudly. It whispers first, a joke that stings, a plan cancelled again. A boundary nudged just this once. And every time you swallow it, your psyche learns. This is acceptable. You're not avoiding conflict. You're training people how to treat you. When you calmly interrupt the pattern, that's not okay with me. This isn't respectful. You rewrite the contract. Not with anger, with clarity. Those who can meet you at that level stay. Those who can to leave, both outcomes protect you. This is the deepest wound, the need to justify your existence. To explain your decisions, to prove your competence, to earn permission to take up space. This comes from a childhood where worth had to be demonstrated, not assumed. But confidence is quiet because it doesn't argue for itself. When someone questions you and you respond with certainty instead of defense, the room recalibrates. I'm comfortable with my choice. That works for me. No stories. No evidence. No begging to be believed. People don't follow explanations. They follow energy. Respect emerges when the performance stops. When you stop over-functioning. Stop over-explaining. Stop over-giving. What remains is presence, and presence is felt immediately. This is shadow integration, reclaiming the parts of you that were silenced to keep peace. It's not becoming harder, it's becoming whole. The moment you stop chasing respect, it finds you. The moment you stop shrinking, the world adjusts. You don't need to become someone new. You need to stop abandoning yourself. Choose one behavior to release today. Just one. Pause instead of reacting. Delay instead of rushing. Speak instead of swallowing. Watch how people respond. Because the world doesn't respond to who you say you are. It responds to who you no longer betray. And once you feel that shift, you'll never beg for respect again. This behavior doesn't come from arrogance or ego. It comes from conditioning. Somewhere early on, you learned that being enough was not a given. That love came with conditions. That approval followed performance. That safety required evidence. So you learned to narrate yourself. You learned to preempt judgment by offering explanations before they were asked for. You learned to defend your choices before anyone challenged them. You learned to translate your instincts into logic so they would be acceptable. And over time, this became automatic. You don't even notice it anymore. The way your voice speeds up when questioned, the way you reach for justification as if silence might expose something fragile. But here's the truth. Over-explaining doesn't create trust, it signals doubt. Not doubt in the other person, doubt in yourself. When you over-justify, you unconsciously tell people that your decisions require approval, that your confidence is conditional, that your authority is negotiable, and people respond accordingly. Not because they want to undermine you, but because humans orient towards certainty. They lean into stability. They follow coherence, confidence, real confidence. Doesn't announce itself. It doesn't convince. It doesn't persuade. It simply is. When someone questions you, and you answer with quiet certainty, "I'm comfortable with my decision. This works for me," something shifts in the room. No explanation follows. No emotional appeal. No attempt to be understood. And suddenly the conversation recalibrates. Because certainty doesn't invite debate. It creates gravity. Your nervous system interprets it as danger because it's unfamiliar. There's no performance to hide behind. No intellectual armor. Just presence. But this is where authority is born. Not from dominance, but from internal alignment. When your inner world and outer expression match, you become coherent, and coherence is deeply persuasive. People don't argue with coherence, they feel it. That's why the most grounded individuals rarely explain themselves. They don't need to. Their energy does the explaining for them. This doesn't mean becoming cold or dismissive. It means trusting that your internal yes or no is sufficient. You stop auditioning for permission. You stop performing worth. And when you stop performing, something profound happens. Others stop evaluating you. They adjust. Because the moment you stop asking to be taken seriously, you are. This is the quiet power of self-ownership. Not loud, not forceful, not defensive, just settled. And once you experience that stillness, that grounded sense of "I am enough without explanation," you realize how much energy you spent trying to convince others of something you never needed to prove. The work now is not to build confidence, it's to remove the reflex to defend. When that reflex dissolves, what remains is presence, and presence commands respect without ever asking for it. You don't need to change everything at once. Transformation doesn't begin with overhaul. It begins with a single interruption. Just one. One moment where you choose differently than you always have. Pause instead of reacting. Delay instead of rushing. Speak instead of swallowing. That's it. Not because these actions are small, but because they interrupt a pattern that has been running your life quietly, faithfully, without your consent. Most people think change comes from force, from discipline, from pushing harder. But real change comes from interruption. The moment you pause when your instinct says react, something ancient inside you stirs. Your body expects the familiar script, the tension, the explanation, the self-abandonment. And when it doesn't get it, it hesitates. That hesitation is power. It's the first crack in an old survival loop. When you delay instead of rushing to please, your nervous system feels exposed at first. You might feel selfish, unkind, unfirst. That discomfort isn't danger. It's withdrawal from a habit that once kept you protected. You're not becoming cold. You're becoming conscious. And when you speak instead of swallowing, when you name what you feel without decoration or apology, something profound happens. Your inner world aligns with your outer one. There is no split, no performance. That alignment is felt instantly by others. People don't respond to words. They respond to congruence. They sense when your actions match your truth. They sense when you're no longer negotiating your worth in silence. And that's when behavior around you changes. Not because you demanded it, because the rules of engagement shifted. The world responds to what you tolerate and to what you embody. This is the part most people misunderstand. Respect is not something you ask for. It's something that emerges when self-betrayal stops. When you stop abandoning your own boundaries to maintain connection, connection recalibrates. When you stop explaining yourself to be accepted, acceptance either deepens or dissolves. And both outcomes serve you. This isn't about control. It's about coherence. And coherence is unmistakable. Once you feel it, even once, you'll recognize how often you gave yourself away before you needed to. You'll notice the micro moments where you used to shrink, and you'll feel the choice now available to you. That's when everything shifts, because the world doesn't respond to who you say you are. It responds to who you stop betraying. The moment you stop performing your worth, you embody it. The moment you stop explaining your presence, it stabilizes. The moment you stop chasing respect, it quietly arrives. And from that place, something irreversible happens. You no longer need permission to exist fully. You no longer negotiate your boundaries internally. You no longer disappear to keep others comfortable. You show up, not louder, not harder, but whole. And that wholeness changes the way the world meets you. Not dramatically, not instantly, but consistently. And once you feel that consistency, you'll never beg for respect again.